Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. RGD workers on sick out and customers are not happy. Psychologist says white-collar crime gender neutral. And later in sports, under-17 reggae boys coach sees need for improvement despite opening win. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shamela Pullen. Here are the details. We begin this afternoon with a developing story. A 20-year-old male UWI student who was charged with assault is to make his first court appearance today. Matthew Hyde of Braemar Avenue was last week charged with assault occasioning grievous bodily harm. According to police reports, between Monday, February 6 and Thursday, February 9, Hyde allegedly held his ex-girlfriend against her will for 3 days, where he repeatedly beat her and burned her with a clothes iron all over her body. A report was subsequently made. Following the woman's rescue, Hyde was then arrested and charged. The police say as investigations continue, other charges are being considered. There was chaos at the Registrar General's Department, RGD, as scores of customers turned up, but the staff did not show up for work. As Jamila Maitland reports, they staged a sick-out in protest against the ongoing compensation review negotiation.
I'm the manager. The management, they slack them. They don't come up and don't come on, buddy.
Scores of people who showed up at the Registrar General's Department, RGD in St. Catherine, to do business were left disappointed after the employees reportedly did not show up for work.
Hear them say they're having a strike, but we never hear it on the news, on the TV.
And to add insult to injury, the citizens revealed that it wasn't until they became furious that a security guard tried calming the angry crowd.
We can't treat people like this. Baby mother out here, old woman out here, everybody out here. And there is nobody now saying nothing to us.
Rocking her baby in one hand and documents in the next, this mother explained that she'd been waiting for over 2 hours.
I'm here to get my baby's birth paper. So come here, use the fear and come here, and then forget the fear to go home, and the work still isn't done. A very big turn off. I'm disappointed.
Reports are that the employees believe that the new salary scale under the compensation review package would result in a category of workers being negatively affected. Additionally, the RGD's failure to pay more than $100 million in incentives, as highlighted in a recent document by the Auditor General's Department, also fueled the strike. When we contacted the Jamaica Civil Service Association that represents the workers, General Secretary O'Neill Grant said he was still gathering information as it relates to when normalcy will resume. He was not able to comment. Jamila Maitland for TVJ News.
A St. James councillor is taking issue with the National Solid Waste Management Authority over poor management of the retirement disposal site in the parish. Michael Troop says the issue is becoming political and the real problem is not being addressed. The retirement disposal site has been a sore point in the last few months. In December alone, there were 2 fires. The incidents have been a source of worry and frustration for residents living nearby. Winston Jones is the Regional Director for the National Solid Waste Management Authority for the Western Region.
We have reported these fires to the police as we suspect them to be arson, and investigations are ongoing. We have also, during that period, had also engaged in covering activities. So approximately 65% of the disposal site is now covered, and we intend to seek funding to cover the remaining areas, to excluding the tipping phase, before the end of March.
But Counsel for the Granville Division, Michael Troop, stopped short of calling him a liar.
The problem is, Mr. Mayor, is that when there's a little fire, they pack a lot, come like when you're burning coal, or preparing to burn coal. You cover the entire thing with marl or dirt, and you don't see any smoke. But over a period of time, when the things start burning, the smoke starts to come up. That's the problem with retirement dump. And they talk about people like to dump and not go so.
Mr. Troop went a step further, suggesting that the issue is becoming political.
I am on record to say that because him call me to himself, so them people can tell him to look work, but not no go so. The retirement dump need management. Anybody who work at the dump is supposed to be a trained person. Mr. Mayor, you know that trained person to work at the retirement dump, but then get work for the boss. So anybody go work. And we're going to always have this problem about retirement dump. We're going to always have this problem. Who suffer? The people in Granville Division. They are the one that is suffering because of lack of management at the retirement dump.
Recently, Executive Director of the NSWMA, Audley Gordon, warned that the agency was closing in on persons who repeatedly light fires on the dump site. He told journalists efforts are being made to curb the practice. Shamela Pullen. And Mr. Jones says low-hanging wires and trees continue to pose a challenge for the team when they go on the road to carry out their duties. He explained the latest incident, which happened on January 2 this year in Catherine Mount.
The parish itself was serviced by 13 units on average, 8 government and about 5 supplementary units. This had further reduced towards the end of the month. Under enforcement activities, over the period, about 64 removal notices were issued, 51 litter tickets were issued, and about 51 of the removal notices were complied with. Approximately 50% of the litter tickets issued were paid, and of this 51, 48 was actually $10,000 tickets, and the remaining $2,000 tickets.
The National Solid Waste Management Authority is defending the number of new garbage trucks assigned to St. Thomas. The response comes following concerns about the collection of garbage in the parish. Details in this report.
A lie or a misunderstanding. Acting Regional Operations Manager at MDM Waste Management at NSWMA, Nigel Gooden, and the Councillor for the Yalis Division, John Lee, went head-to-head at the recent Parish Council meeting over the issue of a backlog of garbage.
The way in which you guys collect garbage, I don't think I need to call any monitor to tell them that it's 2-3 months now. The garbage shut the pass through the Newland area or the Marfally Drive area. I think solid waste treats St. Thomas the worst out of every single parish because we have received none of those new trucks. And these trucks that you guys bring come, they're not even 60% up to standard.
But according to Mr. Gooden, the councillor failed to acknowledge the improvement being made by the agency.
It has been very bad, but I'm saying to you, since and I gave you the figures, since October we have been cleaning up the parish and we are actually on schedule. We're down to as little as 1 and 2 loads when we have backlog, and I explain what backlog is. We don't have those issues anymore.
Councillor Lee did not accept the explanation, accusing the NSWMA of only cleaning up when officials are heading to a council meeting.
When you know that we are behind in collection, which is a backlog, you don't turn up at our meeting. You don't turn up. So I am saying to you that just be real. Just as though you don't plan to send those nice pretty trucks come on the bad road. Those contractors are not going to go through with their trucks, you know, to destroy them, you know, because those are contractor trucks, you know. So we are here at the meeting about the parish in terms of garbage. Just come fair and square with us. Not on everything, but don't tell us that we are not saying the right thing in terms of how the garbage being collected.
Cody Barrett, TVJ News.
Psychologist Dr. Lakim Samaj is defending his assertion that more women are committing white-collar crime. He was speaking on TVJ Smile Jamaica. It's morning time this morning.
In recent months, several women have been charged in relation to fraud at financial institutions in Jamaica. Psychologist Dr. Lakim Samaj says in the last 5 decades, there has been a significant increase in women involved in white-collar crime.
The most specific area that we're seeing this in is financial crimes, such as involved in credit card, involved in loans, involved in manipulating the system internally so as to make money. Men still dominate some segments of white-collar crime, such as embezzlement, insider trading. You understand? Insider trading, where you know certain things about the company and so on, and then you are able to buy stocks and benefit.
Dr. Samaj says that there are several factors driving the statistics.
The first one I'll mention now, the increased representation at the highest level. One, societal change. Our attitude towards women have shifted. In the past, women were more seen as to be less likely to engage in crime. But with our perception now, we tend to, look, you want the equal power, you want the equal, so we're going to treat you with equality. Opportunity. A lot more women have opportunity now, where in the past, many of them didn't. So that the other area, cyber crimes, they're not doing very bad in that area too. But white collar and cyber.
He says systems must be put in place for everyone in order to address this problem.
Look, when you're hiring people, the friend business now, who knows somebody and so on, you want to ensure that you're hiring people with integrity. And that's why I strongly believe in psychometric testing. So you can see, I have a statement that a resume is a self-report. An interview is a performance. Some people are good at those things. So that you really want something that will get to the roots, not just the fruits. Who are you hiring?
Shane Masters, TVJ News.
It's been a year since a massive flood in St. Mary. Residents and business people were displaced. But how are they doing now? The details in this report.
February 1, 2022 will forever be etched in the minds of residents in Port Maria, St. Mary. This is after heavy rains resulted in major flooding, forcing them to spend the night in shelters. Business operators felt it in their pockets, losing millions of dollars in flood damage. Fast forward to a year later and things are back to normal. But President of the St. Mary Chamber of Commerce, Frederick Young, says while some business operators have been making progress in building back, others are still struggling.
It would take maybe another year or two to really get back to where they were, because persons have bounced back in terms of the business restarted, but that level of where they were is not yet achieved. So for example, somebody had $1 million stock in there and it was all damaged and washed away. They probably get back to 300,000, 400,000 over time. So may go to their banks to have their loan refinance, reschedule to get back some funding. And so that is a process that is happening now. But in terms of fully recover, I don't think any of them will be fully recovered after 1 year.
And it's not just business people. Mr. Young says some residents who were affected by the flooding are not happy because they are yet to get assistance from the government.
The estimate that we had at the time would have run into hundreds of millions of dollars in terms of persons whose household was affected from their furnishing, appliances, and for the business sector, those whose stock was damaged, washed away and damaged. So it will cost over hundreds of millions to get them back to where they were. I think what was done primarily was to look at those who were most vulnerable, those in the arcade, the smaller enterprises, to get them back on their feet with some level of funding. And that was done. But we would have hoped that we would have had more. It didn't happen.
The people are again appealing to the authorities to put measures in place to avoid a recurrence.
In terms of the mitigating factors that were mentioned, the river training, the various things to be done in terms of drainage, we need to have those done. How can we mitigate the potential for flood and other disaster living in an area like Port Maria, which is in some section below sea level? We also think about those who can move to higher grounds to do so, because it will happen again.
Hal Shane Burke reporting for TVJ News.
It's now time for the Business Minute.
Jamaica Promotions Corporation, JAMPRA, has a new president. Vice President Chilette Cox has been elevated to the position. She replaces Diane Edwards, who served as president for 9 years. Her contract expired in December last year. Mrs. Cox was appointed vice president in August 2013 and most recently led the Research, Advocacy and Project Implementation Division. JAMPO's board says her appointment strategically aligns with the organization's renewed focus on growing exports, expanding investments, and improving the business environment of the nation. Further afield, wages are expected to increase in the United Kingdom by the most in at least 11 years. The increase of 5% for workers would still, however, fall well below expected inflation. The Chartered Institute of Personal Development, CIPD, in a survey found that 55% of recruiters planned to lift base or variable pay this year as they struggle to hire and retain staff in Britain's tight labour market. Expected average annual pay increase for 2023 rose to 5%, the highest since CIPD records began in 2012. Now, Bank of England's Governor Andrew Bailey last week expressed concerns about wage setting despite signs that the surge in inflation has turned a corner. Annual inflation fell to 10.5% in the UK in December after hitting a 41-year high of 11.1% in October. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Shane Masters.
Thank you, O'Shane. And now the top regional and international stories.
In the region, the Director General of Migration in the Dominican Republic has announced the plans to deport 71 illegal Haitian nationals who reportedly assaulted security officials in the country while undergoing routine checks. This after the illegal migrants started throwing stones at the police agents who were part of the operation in an area of Punta Cana. Following the incident, 78 Haitians were detained by the authorities and 71 of them will be deported. Officials say these Haitians will also be charged with violations of the migration law in the Dominican territory. On the international scene, Americans currently in Russia are being advised to leave the country as soon as possible. A travel advisory from the U.S. State Department urged the citizens to exercise increased caution due to the risk of wrongful detentions. The advisory says Russian security services have previously arrested Americans, denied them fair treatment, and convicted them despite no credible evidence. According to the State Department, Russian security services are also targeting foreign and international organizations that they deem undesirable. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Kimone Witter.
We head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your midday